For this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about physical and chemical changes. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to distinguish between physical changes and chemical changes by identifying examples of each. So some examples that I'm going to have is an ice cube, a burnt toast, and piece of paper for this. So an ice cube melting, I have an ice cube melting here. You can see like the water, some of it's melting. And then I do have a piece of burnt toast as well. So this is the piece of burnt toast. And then I also have a piece of paper. So, in your opinion, which one do you think could be changed back to its original form? So in this lesson, you're going to be able to learn the difference between physical and chemical changes. So I'll give you a little background. Physical change, it changes like the size, the shape, or the state of matter, but it stays the same substance. Some examples of that: melting ice. So melting ice is a physical change because at the end of the day, it's still water. It's ice going back to water. So it's staying the same state of matter, kind of. So another example of the physical change is paper. Tear a piece of paper in half, still a piece of paper. It's just changing the size of it, the shape of it, but it is still the same substance. So that's a pretty good example. A chemical change is forms like a new substance. So example of a chemical change would be burnt toast. And another example of chemical changes is like a rusting a nail, a baking a cake, and like the things you can look for when you're trying to figure out something is a physical or chemical change. For chemical change, the things that you look for is like color change of their temperature, bubbles or gas, or does it have a new smell? Well, for this, clearly change of color, temperature change, and also kind of a new smell like burnt smell. So we're gonna do like a little activity. Activity is I'm gonna give you some like different examples. You're gonna put a thumbs up if this is a physical change, or you're gonna put a thumbs down if it's a chemical change. So for each one I say, just like, put a thumbs up if you think it's a physical change, and a thumbs down if it's a chemical change. And after I give you a second, I'll tell you which one it is. So for the first one, melting butter. Do you think that's a physical change, or do you think that's a chemical change? So I'll give you some clues. Does it change size? Does it change shape? Does it change state of matter? Or does it form something new? Does it have a change of color? Does it have a temperature change? Alright, so melting butter. What do you think it is? Physical change. Good. Okay, so frying an egg. Do you think that is a chemical change or physical change? Thumbs up for physical change, thumbs down for chemical change. It is a chemical change. Frying an egg is a chemical change. It's taking on a new form. Cutting paper. Do you think that's a physical change, or do you think that's a chemical change? Kind of gave you like a little hint of the form with tearing paper. It is a physical change. It's a physical change because if you're cutting it, it's still like the same. You're just changing its shape, but it's still the same substance. Another example, rusting metal. I already said this. Is it a physical change, or is it a chemical change? If it's a physical change, you put a thumb up. If it's a chemical change, put your thumbs down. It's a chemical change. A rusting metal is a chemical change. It's a chemical change because it's taking on a new form. It's not going to be able to go back to its original no rust at all. So that's why it is a chemical change. So physical changes change how something looks, but it still stays the same substance. A chemical change makes a completely new substance. So if I melt an ice cube, it's still water, so it's a physical change. But if I burnt toast, you can't take it back to not burnt toast. So it's still going to say a burnt toast no matter what you do. So it's a chemical change. So those are some things to think about, and this is how you would identify chemical changes and physical changes and which one they are.